Elizabeth began in 1926. These were to be two of the biggest and the fastest passenger liners ever built. Construction began on job number 534 in December of 1930 at John Brown Shipyard in Clydebank, Scotland. But work on the ship stopped 1 year later because of the Great Depression. Eventually, the British government decided to give Cunard a loan to finish the ship if they agreed to merge with their rival, the British passenger ship company, the White Star Line. Is anyone familiar with the White Star Line? They built a ship called the Titanic. That beautiful ship that was not supposed to sink, but it did. Finally, in September of 1934, the Queen Mary was named and launched. Many people assume that a ship is launched on its maiden voyage, but actually, a ship is launched even before the engines or the superstructure, which is the upper deck, is added. Until her launch, the Queen Mary was only known as job number 534. The Queen Mary began her maiden voyage on May 27, 1936. She continued her transatlantic crossings until World War II. The ship was detained in New York. In 1940, the Queen Mary was actually drafted into service as a troop carrier. And after being refurbished to her original peacetime elegance, she once again resumed passenger service until 1967, when in the early 1960s, all transatlantic lines began to realize the loss of revenue. This was due to a loss of passengers because jet air travel had become the primary mode of international transportation. In May of 1967, Cunard announced the Queen Mary was for sale, and the city of Long Beach was the highest bidder, with a mere $3,450,000. The ship began its final 39-day voyage from Southampton, England to Long Beach. Because the Queen Mary was so large, she could not pass through the Panama Canal. So therefore, she had to travel around the coast of South America and Cape Horn. The Queen Mary arrived in Long Beach on December 9, 1967. Construction began on the ship to convert her from a passenger liner to a floating hotel and tourist attraction. The Queen Mary opened to the public in a present location in May of 1971. On April 15, 1993, the historical liner was added to the National Register of Historical Places. And in September of 2004, the RMS Foundation celebrated the 70th anniversary of the launch of the Queen Mary. Also in the year 2004, we celebrated the 68th anniversary of Her Majesty's maiden voyage. Please follow me in this direction. Named after the famous traffic circle in London. This was the social and the shopping area for the first class passengers, and only for the first class passengers. Displayed here is a marquetry panel. A marquetry panel is put together much like a jigsaw puzzle. Each element of the panel is a piece of wood that is carved and pieced together to form a picture. There are 56 different varieties of wood veneer used throughout this ship, 39 of which are seen here in this marquetry panel. The term veneer refers to a thin layer of exquisite wood that is laid on a tough wooden base. Much of this area here in Piccadilly Circus looks the same as it did when the ship first sailed in 1936, except the floor color and the floor pattern have changed. The original interior decking consisted of materials called corkcord and rubeolia, as these materials were composed of cork and rubber, so as not to be slippery when wet. Believe it or not, the waves could actually reach as high as the promenade deck windows here and break through into this room. So you can understand why they would need a non-slippery surface at that time. This room on the port side was the first class tobacco shop. The woods in here are cedar woods from Honduras. This room on the starboard side was the William H. Smith book shop. The woods in here are Macquarie decor, a West African wood, also known as Cherry mahogany. This way, please. This large room on the port side was the first class library, and it served as the Anglican chapel. This large room on the starboard side was the first class drawing room, and it served as the Catholic chapel. Directly in front of us was the exclusive Austin Reed's men's clothing shop. The woods in here are Indian silverwood gray with Indian laurel bands. The artwork above is called a frieze. A frieze is a highly decorative band that decorates the tops of buildings or walls. It is plaster reinforced and then pressure wax treated. Maurice Lambert, whose work on board the Queen Mary was the most modern example of Art Deco style, designed this 50-foot frieze. It is entitled Sport and Speed. And as you take a look at the figures on the frieze, you would notice that they are all in motion. This way, please. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, this large room on your right-hand side, the starboard side, was the first class children's playroom. Now, I say to each of you, notice the proximity of the first class children's playroom to the proximity of the observation bar. Yeah. Exactly. The parents would come, drop the kids off to play, and then the parents in turn would go and play. The observation bar was a popular gathering place during good weather because of the beautiful sweeping view of the bow. But in bad weather, no one would go inside because sometimes during rough weather, the bow of the ship could actually begin to plow down into the waves, down into the waves, down into the waves. You're going to give me to say that again, I promise you. The observation bar is closed at this hour, but I should give you some information. It is semicircular in design. It fills the forward end of the promenade deck. It is 34 feet from center line with a maximum width of 70 feet. The arch of the room is scattered with 21 windows. The bar is placed against the forward bulkhead. Above the bar is a painting by Alfred R. Thompson entitled The Royal Jubilee Week. It depicts the celebration of George V's 25th year as king. There is a railing inside that is sculpted from Burma-Bright, a white metal alloy by Austin Crompton Roberts. It is modern in design. It depicts figures and beasts interspersed with beer barrels. The observation bar and lounge has been featured in the movies Being John Malkovich with Cameron Diaz and What Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. I have a question for each of you. Has anyone at all heard that the Queen Mary is haunted?
Today.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I say to each and every one of you, the most powerful spirits on board this ship are here in the observation bar and lounge. And later on today, when it opens around 1 p.m., if you are 21 years of age, feel free to come back and partake of these spirits. This way, please.
What if you're over?
Maple burl with English elm burl tram. This large room on your right-hand side, the port side, was the first-class lecture room. This way, please.
You go in there and get a lecture? So you go to the drawing room and draw, and then come over here and lecture. Samurai sword. Samurai sword. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
In 1947, after resuming passenger service, leather in 2 shades of beige was used to cover these walls throughout the main hall. The indirect lighting strip above us is 262 feet long and contains 524 lamps. This center ceiling light fixture is 5 feet in diameter and only weighs 400 pounds. Directly in front of us and over the staircase was an original medallion of Queen Mary that was set on a large walnut bird panel with English elm bird panels on either side. Lady Hilton Young, who did numerous portraits, monuments, and war memorials, sculpted it from marble. Hanging directly below it in that case was Her Majesty's personal standard. A standard is a flag that contains her family crest. In 1967, Cunard retained the original standard and the medallion and presented them to the royal family. Today, the standard is on the QE2 and the medallion is held in an art collection at Marble House in London. Please follow me onto the promenade deck. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, we are now about to enter what was then called the first class main lounge. Today, it is called the Queen's Salon. As we enter, I would need your participation in several ways. First, please take your tickets out that either say 11:30 or BTS behind the scenes on them so that I can take a peek at them as we enter into the first class main lounge. When we enter, please turn to your right. Go and stand on the center or the middle of the dance floor. If you have a camera, you may take pictures. Please take your tickets out that either say 11:30 or BTS and enter.
I had a Christmas party.
Follow the map. Very big. Very big. May I put the map out there? I can see all the people of interest that you can visit for the Queen Mary for yourself, guided tour, as well as you have a guided tour of the ghostly legends which takes place at this afternoon. And the last one is at 6 o'clock today. To get to ghostly legends on this very same deck right here, the gateway right here, there's an elevator. The right hand side. One elevator. Number one, will take you down to the parking lot. Turn to your right. You see a large staircase. Walk down the stairs and get to your inside the main there's another separate elevator. Go on those elevators. They have alphabets. C, A, B, M, and R. They will take you inside. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, you have just entered one of the most beautiful rooms on board this ship. She is 3 decks high. This room was filled with overstuffed chairs and couches. During the day, passengers would come into this room to socialize with other passengers or just to listen to music. As a matter of fact, the entire theme of this room is music, as reflected in the etchings in the mirrors over the 2 outside fireplaces, as well as the bronze reliefs over the doorways and over the stairs, the stage. Maurice Lambert, whose work we saw up in the main hall, sculpted these bronze reliefs. They are entitled Symphony. At the aft end of the room, in each corner, a bronze statuettes. On your right-hand side is Bison by Alfred J. Oakley. On your left-hand side is Cowboy and Bronco by Alan Howes. Also during the day, there would be an organ recital or perhaps a pre-recorded classical music program. Sometimes the ship's orchestra would play favorite selections throughout the day. Now, at that time, dinner was never, ever served in this room. But promptly at 4 p.m. each day, tea was served. And after the tea was served, they would play games such as bingo. They also had a horse racing game that was a form of gambling. And after the games were played, the couches and the chairs were pushed to the sides of the room. The carpets were rolled up to expose the oak parquet flooring. Thus, this became the first-class cinema. And the ladies and gentlemen of the first class in their beautiful tuxedos and gowns could dance their way across the cold North Atlantic. This ship has been heralded as the ship of beautiful woods, with good reason. The ceiling is mazur birch. The walls are maple burl. The pillars are cherry mahogany. There are 1, 2, 3 fireplaces in this room. All 3 of these fireplaces are electric, as this is done as a fire prevention measure. There is a uniqueness about all 3 fireplace mantles, and all 8 lighting urns were carved from the very same block of golden onyx to give it the very same color and the very same grain. You see, they were meticulous about what they did in this room. Perhaps this room looks familiar to some of you. Maybe yes, maybe no. It is one of the more popular filming locations on board the ship. The Godfather 2 with Al Pacino was filmed in here. The Natural with Robert Redford. Diagnosis Murder, Quincy, Murder, She Wrote, The Magician. Oh yes, as of late, the 100th episode of Cold Case was also filmed in this room. Directly behind you is the second largest piece of artwork on board the ship. It is entitled Unicorns in Battle by Alfred J. Oakley and Gilbert Bays. It is a carved gesso panel tinted silver and gold. Gesso is a process by which artists use plaster of Paris mixed with glue, which is spread onto a surface to be painted or gilded. The design is carved into the wood, covered with gesso, then covered with a gold leaf paint on a cream background. You will notice there are cutout sections in the middle of the mural. What do you think they are for? Yes, there were actually movie projectors behind this mural. When those sections were opened up, a film was projected here to the aft end of the room onto a screen that was set up on this stage. Thus, this became the first class cinema. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, there's one other uniqueness about this room. That is, the 2 mirrors over the outside fireplaces contain a center plate of peach plate glass that was used in this room for one reason and one reason only. From time to time during rough weather, the Queen Mary would rock and she would roll. And she would rock and she would roll. And if the passengers became seasick, looked a bit green about the face, they could look into the peach plate mirrors, see a healthy complexion, and hopefully feel just a wee bit better. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, I'm going to give you 1 minute your healthy complexions in the peach flake mirror. Go ahead.
Jeez, I look 30 years younger.
You're still older than me.
Healthy in there? Marcus, look.
Bronze is you.
I got a good tan.
Has anyone heard of a gentleman with the name of Bob Hope? Just a few of us. Whenever Mr. Hope was on board the ship, Mr. Hope would perform on that stage. There was another gentleman. They called him Daddy Long Legs. Fred Astaire danced throughout this room. All right, my family, this way, please. 5 feet beneath them. They spent many leisure hours on these teak wood decks, whether they were relaxing in their lounge chairs or exercising by walking the entire length of the promenade deck, which is approximately 1/4 of a mile. I have no idea how long each of you are going to be on board Queen Mary today, but may I suggest to you the best ships in the world are right here at California Ships. Try one before you leave today. They are fantastic. There was one person on board the Queen Mary who did not use the promenade deck for relaxation. That was British Olympic runner Lloyd Burley, who was on board the Queen Mary for her official speed trials in 1936. He ran one lap, 400 yards in his entire evening dress, which was his tuxedo and shoes, in just under 60 seconds. So you see, this Olympian was quite fast. You may also remember I said to you, the Queen Mary took 39 days to arrive here in Long Beach from Southampton, England. In the process, the waves broke some of these windows. When the ship arrived here in Long Beach, they only measured one window. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, as we enter into the first class smoking lounge, I will once again need your cooperation. When we enter, please walk forward, stand on the center or the middle of the dance floor. Please leave the area in front of the fireplace open. If you have a camera, you may take pictures. Men like to dance too. Welcome to the first class smoking lounge. This room was designed to recreate the dignified atmosphere of a typical English country manor. This room was filled with overstuffed leather-winged chairs and couches on a central throw rug. The activities in this room included auctioning for the ship's tote, where the passengers would actually buy numbers to try and guess how many miles the Queen Mary would steam in 24 hours. They also liked to play cards, but they were given a warning because professional gamblers were known to stalk the transatlantic lines looking for unsuspecting victims. This room was also the office of a vicious villain in an episode of Quantum Leap, starring Scott Bakula, who today is the captain of the Enterprise on Star Trek. This counter at the aft end of the room was the steward's hot cupboard and warming plate. Should you desire to have hot coffee or tea, they would provide it for you at that station. On the starboard side, in this corner, was an American-style walk-up cocktail bar. James Woodford carved from lime wood here on the forward bulkhead these beautiful and intricate panels that have been with the ship since its inception. I've shown you 3 fireplaces on board the Queen Mary that are electric as a fire prevention measure. This was the only fireplace on board the Queen Mary that at that time could actually burn coal. Please notice these buttons here on the walls and on the pillars throughout this room. These buttons were used to summon the smoking stewards from the rear of the room. Should you desire to have cigars, cigarettes, pipes, or tobaccos, then they would take care of your desires. There are 2 paintings in this room. Both of these paintings are by Mr. Edward Wadsworth. Mr. Wadsworth had 2 trademarks in each of his paintings. The first trademark is the Queen Mary on the horizon here and the Queen Mary on the horizon there. The second trademark is the use of international signal flags in the background on each of these paintings. Mr. Wadsworth did not sign his name to these paintings, but instead used the international signal flags to put his initials E.W. in the background. I have an optical illusion to show you, and the term is optical, because some of you will see it, and some of you will not see it.
You can go, Marty.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, I invite you to enter and look around a first-class suite. As you enter, the very first room on your right-hand side was the maid's quarters. And please pay attention to both of the bathtubs. Enter.
Not quite as big. I think we had like 3 levels. Yeah. Of course, you're not going to travel without your maid, are you? This desk.
Yes, sir. Watch your step as you enter.
We don't have a bathtub anymore.
Wow.
I've never seen it. I'm gonna tell you.
decor, learning of her history, and feeling her ambience. I say to each of you, thank you. Come back again and 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 again, and tell someone else about the Queen Mary. Do you know why? Because she is also now part of our history. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, have a fantastic day on board the Queen Mary. Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Well, you're all still standing around. That either means one or two things. Either you love me or you are lost. To get to your next destination and perhaps your next tour, all you have to do is turn around, walk up either side of the stairs here. At the top of the stairs, please turn to your